Good evening, everyone. This is Vicki Simons with TruckDriversMoneySavingTips.com, and we're going to be talking about truckers taking leadership of their own trucking careers tonight, and what it's like to what you need to look for and avoid when you're looking at jumping to another trucking company. My husband Mike and I have driven for different companies. I've driven for two trucking companies. Carriers. Both of them have irregular routes, and my husband has driven for quite a number of trucking companies, including regional and local, and we have quite a bit of experience with that. And a good bit of what I'm going to be talking about tonight is going to have to do with things that you can look at our recruiters page, but I will have a few other things to say too. When you're looking first to become a professional truck driver, we recommend that you, if at all possible, get your CDL independently of any trucking company. We've got plenty of information on our website about why you do not want to become exploited by going to work for the company that is also in charge of issuing you your commercial driver's license. Okay, so you want to be able to be free. You don't want to have to sign any contracts saying I'm going to be, guaranteeing that I'm going to be working for this particular company for X amount of time in case something really bad happens. Depending on what happens, you may have a lag in the benefits, your employee benefits that kick in. And so for every time you change a trucking company, there's probably going to be a lag in the benefits. It could be 30, 45, even 90 days before you see some of those benefits kick in. Plus, sometimes when a driver is looking to take a particular kind of a benefit, those open enrollment sessions only happen like once a year, so you want to be careful when you do that, when you make that jump. Okay, so when you're looking to join a trucking company, there are some questions that you'll need to answer. I did a video that you can find on our YouTube channel about some things that you need to be careful for when you're looking for a trucking job on Craigslist. Okay, obviously, one of the tips that I have for you tonight, you'll always want to check up on the FMCSA's website to check to make sure that the doggone trucking company is even authorized to operate. Okay, I was appalled when I was doing that research for that video that there was one trucking company that was advertising for drivers that was not even authorized to operate. So why in the world they were advertising for drivers was beyond my ability to comprehend, but it is your responsibility to do your due diligence before you sign on with anybody, okay? And also be careful when you're looking to make a jump to a trucking company about anybody who advertises that they've got this enormous sign-on bonus. What is it that you're going to have to do in order to get that sign-on bonus? How long are you going to have to work for that? There was a large national trucking company that had a big sign-on bonus or some sort of a bonus that they were offering, and in order to be able to get that, and I mentioned that on our page, that performance bonus, I mean, it was so far beyond the ability of the average trucker to even consider staying with that trucking company that long in order to get that bonus. It was ridiculous, and by the time you ended up getting it, it was only a few cents a month by the time it was all said and done. Okay, so when you're looking for going to another trucking company, obviously you'll want to research the company, find out how long it's been in existence, what kind of turnover they've had, various kinds of things that would be of interest to you, okay? I'm going to warn you, even if you go to work for a top 20 trucking company in the United States, do your due diligence. Find out some of this information in advance, and don't just take somebody else's word for it. Of course, you want to probably see if you can interact with some drivers in person if possible, but also through the forums and find out if this company is any good. You want to make sure that you understand what the driver qualifications are. Okay, do you have to work for a certain amount of time? In other words, have a certain amount of experience before you go to work for this particular trucking company. Don't waste your time trying to get a job with a trucking company when you only have 1 year of experience and they require 2 or 3. It's not going to do you any good. Also, I would strongly recommend that you have at least one winter driving season under your belt before you go to work with someone else. And also a personal experience that Mike and I had when we made the shift from Swift Transportation to U.S. Express. Okay, part of the reason why we were drawn to U.S. Express, very frankly, was because at the time that we were driving for Swift, they had an Oklahoma City, Oklahoma terminal. And almost directly across I-40 from where that terminal either is or used to be was the U.S. Express terminal. And we were like, the Swift terminal, to be honest with you, was pretty nasty, and the U.S. Express yard from a distance looked pretty nice. So we ended up becoming drivers for U.S. Express without really doing our due diligence about where the freight lanes were. And that's another one of my things. When you're going into, when you're looking to drive, look to see where their freight lanes are, what kind of freight they haul, where they're going to be traveling, where these trucks are going to be going back and forth, and what their hiring area is, okay? So Swift, at the time that we were with them, of course we realize they're a national company and they can go in a lot of places, but a lot of their primary a lot of their primary freight lanes were saved from I-40 south. Okay, so we were doing a lot of I-10, I-20, I-40, and some above that. I mean, there were times when we were doing timed runs, okay, from, say, North Carolina up to Kent, Washington. So there were times when we were above that. But the fact of the matter is, when we went to U.S. Express, most of their freight lanes were farther north. Okay, so we got a lot more snow and ice during that time, and being from South Carolina like we are, and of course I'm broadcasting from our home in our studio in South Carolina right now, but we weren't used to driving in that much snow and ice, and it was quite a shock for us. So look at the freight lanes that you're going to be hauling. Also, whatever the freight that you're going to be doing, is it going to be a lot of drop and hook? Are you going to be required to stay in the dock a lot? Are you going to be required to unload your loads? Okay, the different kinds of freight that you can haul. What kinds of equipment are you going to be driving? Are they, do they particularly like Freightliners or Peterbilts or Kenworths or some other kind of a truck? What kinds of equipment and features, for example, when we were driving for U.S. Express at that time, and I don't think it's the case anymore, but they did not have any jake brakes or engine brakes in their trucks. And it was, at the time that we were there, the owners of the company just thought that they were big noisemakers. They didn't realize the power of these jake brakes to be able to help slow a truck down. And personal experience, and I was the one who was driving at the time. I was coming down, you guys probably know what Cabbage Patch is in Oregon. And I literally, because we had a heavy load on, and I had already smoked my brakes when I was with Swift going down the Grapevine. When I went down Cabbage Hill there, I took that hill at 9 miles per hour because I did not want to lose any kind of control on the brakes. And I was going so slowly down that hill, or one of those hills, that I literally had a family of 4 deer cross the road in front of me. That was kind of interesting. But anyway, what kind of equipment do they have? What's on it? All right, what kind of operations does the trucking company have? What's their, for example, what kinds of dispatches? What's the procedure for getting dispatches? Do they have a Qualcomm in the trucks that you're going to be getting your dispatches on? Other kinds of things having to do with the operation inside the trucking company. For example, if you have a mixture of company drivers and owner-operators, are they in the same pool, or are they treated a little differently? Okay, the drivers. What kind of drivers do they have? What kind of drivers are they seeking? Okay, and this can be, for example, if you're going to be, and I realize that this is maybe a little bit of a stretch, but if you're driving for some sort of a local company and you're expected to be able to lift a certain amount of weight, okay, in order to be able to unload your loads a lot, be careful. I mean, if you're a small person like I am and you're not used to lifting that much weight, don't try to be some sort of a hero in it. Realize what your limitations are and go from there. Okay, what sort of benefits does the trucking company offer? And if it is a case where you can get, like Mike and I have, some sort of, say, a health insurance policy that gives you better benefits for less money than the trucking company can offer you through whatever insurance company they've got a deal with, then feel free to shop around. Also, how do they handle accidents? What sort of network, for example, your fueling network and tire network do they have? Different kinds of things like this. So just be careful when you're getting ready to jump from one trucking company to another, and realize there's a lot more to it than just the shiny outside, or looking at what's on their website. You may want to ask some very specific questions of whatever recruiter or a staffing agency you're going to be going through to make sure what's going on. Now, my husband did drive for a staffing agency for a while, and the way that it worked with this staffing agency is that Mike was sort of a fill-in driver. And the thing about it was whenever someone was on vacation, or whenever there was a, some they had lost a member because there was somebody quit or left the job for some other job, okay, he was expected to fill in wherever there was a need. And of course, there's a lot of flex that you have to have with respect to that. So there was one specific, shall we say, trucking company they weren't really a trucking company. They were actually a company that happened to have trucks. The trucks were very poorly maintained, and Mike had to report that to the staffing agency, and they ended up having to report that to the management of the company, because the vendors, those who are requesting the freight, were not being adequately serviced. And Mike didn't want to be affiliated with a company that was going to be, because their trucks were so poorly maintained, they did not, the truckers were being inconvenienced, number one, and number two, it was just downright dangerous. So Mike ended up reporting that. But there are different situations that you're probably going to run into with respect to just doing different kinds of things when you're changing trucking companies. Also, go to the FMCSA website and look for information on your trucking company before you go in and do any due diligence. If you are in truck driver training school and you are looking to go in with your first company, realize that the recruiters who are coming in to do recruiting from the trucking schools, okay, they're going to put on their shiny side. Okay, they're going to make it sound as though their trucking company is basically hung the moon. Okay, that they're the biggest and the best. Okay, do not be lured in because a recruiter is very sharply dressed, or tells you what you want to hear, or they claim that they have some sort of a new and fancy piece of equipment in their trucks. Okay, be careful that you can trust, but also verify. Okay, make sure you understand what's going on. When Mike and I were in truck driver training school back in 1992, and obviously we did go with Swift, but the recruiter for Swift said something about a piece of electronic equipment that was going to be in the trucks. To my knowledge, they're still not in those trucks, okay? But technology has improved to the point where that kind of equipment is really not needed anymore. But the thing is, when we got into the trucks, I'm like, well, where is this piece of machinery that was supposed to be here? Where is this tool? Where is this electronic equipment that's there? And they weren't there. But the thing about it is we did get our experience with Swift, and then we moved on. Like I said, we've had our share of moves too. I'm not necessarily recommending or not recommending any specific trucking company, and I will not. Different trucking companies have their pros and cons, just like any other employer does. So just do your due diligence. We're going to be having a guest on our program, so we may be coming up with that fairly soon. Just look for someone else to be on the program and address some things. There may be a guest on the program tomorrow night. You never know. So tomorrow night we're going to be looking at Thoughtful Thursday, and that's going to be about budgeting and having to do with your money specifically. And until next time, my husband Mike and I wish you safe travels and lots of money-saving opportunities on the road. Thanks, and have a great night.